From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, you're listening to 1680 The Crow, and I'm Jocelyn Chappelle here with your 12 p.m. news headlines. November is the month when Canadian veterans are honoured across the country. Our reporter Jake McGrail is at Vancouver's National Indigenous Veterans Day ceremony, the first major remembrance ceremony in the city this week.
National Indigenous Veterans Day began in 1994. Its status as distinct from Remembrance Day on November 11th is to recognize the increased obstacles that Indigenous veterans have faced. Over 12,000 Indigenous people are estimated to have served in the two World Wars and the Korean War. When they returned home, many of those veterans did not receive the same benefits as non-Indigenous veterans, including some who had their land taken from them. The Vancouver ceremony began this morning with an honor march down Main Street to the Victory Square cenotaph. Following that is a wreath-laying ceremony and tributes from various speakers until 1 p.m. Jake McGrail, 1680 The Crow.
Our reporter Jake McGrail joins us live now to chat about this a bit more. Jake, who is speaking at the event today?
Well, there were representatives from the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Tsawwassen First Nations all speaking as well. Federal MP Hedy Fry and provincial MLA Joan Phillips just finished speaking. There's currently the wreath-laying ceremony underway. That just began a few minutes ago.
Is it possible for people not at the event to see it?
Yes, the event is being live streamed on the National Aboriginal Veterans Day Facebook page. And even after the event is over, if people would like to watch it at their own convenience, they can do so on the same page.
Thanks so much, Jake. A pedestrian has been hit by a vehicle this morning while walking in downtown Vancouver. VPD says the incident happened at the intersection of Howe and West Hastings Streets. It is still unclear how severe the person's injuries are. Police have not provided an estimate of when the intersection would reopen. The driver that killed two UBC students in 2021 has been sentenced to 3 years in prison and prohibited from driving for 5 years. Both Crown and defense suggested this sentencing for Tim Gerner. Evan Smith and Emily Selwood, both 18, were killed in the high-speed crash in 2021 when Gerner's car left the road and hit the pair on a university sidewalk. Gerner had initially been charged with impaired driving as alcohol was found to be in his system and pleaded guilty last month to dangerous driving causing death. This year, Metro Vancouver's living wage has jumped more than 6.5%. The Centre for Policy Alternatives says the living wage is now $25.68 per hour. Although Vancouver doesn't have the highest living wage in the province, that can be found in Clackawack Sound with a living wage of $26.51. The CPA says that many people working low-wage jobs are facing impossible choices when it comes to paying for basic necessities. A Surrey soccer team has been expelled from the league after a reported assault took place this weekend. The Vancouver Metro Soccer League says it does not condone or tolerate the type of behavior witnessed on November 4th. Reporter Jagraj Lawley covered the story yesterday and has details on what happened Saturday.
At Newton Athletic Park, a group of South Asian men created chaos during a soccer match in the Metro Vancouver Soccer League. The brawl erupted due to a foul on a Latin American team player, shocking the spectators. Law enforcement quickly arrived as about 15 outsiders joined the fray. The outnumbered Latin American team couldn't defend themselves, and the brawl unfolded in front of innocent bystanders, including women, children, and the elderly. Amateur sports expert Steve Erickson emphasizes the league's crucial role in dealing with such situations.
But the league has to really take a hardline attitude at these type of problems because it's just devastating to see. Number one is where the world's going, especially when it comes to sports, because sports realistically is supposed to build better citizens.
The Surrey RCMP is currently investigating the incident, but has not made any arrests. Jagraj Lawley, 1680 The Crow.
Several people were brought to hospital this morning in Saskatchewan after a coach bus rolled over on a highway. 13 people were rescued from inside the vehicle after firefighters had to break windows and use the emergency roof hatch. None of their injuries are expected to be life-threatening. The bus had a Tennessee license plate, and the RCMP has not provided further details on the passengers' conditions. Dwayne Stone, fire chief for the town of Grenfell, says Highway 1 was icy and covered with snow when the bus rolled. Here's a clip from the Canadian Press.
There are escape hatches on the top, so we opened those and we took out the window on the top, on the front, and we took out the window at the back. And different firemen were working in different sections trying to get different people out.
Car share users are overjoyed after a new ruling was passed at Burnaby City Hall. BCIT reporter Jay Rajlali has the story.
In a move set to transform the way Burnaby residents use car-sharing services, City Council has given the green light to new regulations that grant Evo and Moto the freedom to park their vehicles anywhere within the city, without time limits, even at metered spaces. Previously, car shares were confined to designated spots around Metrotown, Brentwood Town Center, SFU, and BCIT. To qualify, car share companies must have an agreement to pay for metered parking. These changes aim to cut commuter costs, making owning a car less of a burden. Furthermore, a $50 decal for car share vehicles is in the works, making Burnaby more welcoming to these services. BCAA, which operates Evo, is enthusiastic about the decision, anticipating added convenience for locals. The changes go into effect on January 1st, 2024. Jagraj Lally, 1680, The Crow.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is issuing an impassioned plea for a humanitarian pause in the Israel-Hamas war to end the violence and get back on track to creating a two-state solution in the Middle East. Stephanie Taylor with the Canadian Press has more.
Trudeau's plea to de-escalate the situation comes as more Canadians are on a list to leave the Gaza Strip after 75 citizens, permanent residents and their families were able to cross into Egypt on Tuesday. Global Affairs Canada says that more than 400 Canadians and their families are on a list of foreign nationals seeking to leave the besieged territory, but the process for who gets out is not controlled by Canada. Canada has joined other allies in calling for a humanitarian pause in the war to allow aid to get in, as well as asked for the release of more than 200 Israeli hostages held by Hamas. Stephanie Taylor, The Canadian Press, Ottawa.
In entertainment news, if you're a Taylor Swift fan, you already know today is announcement day for which lucky individuals will get tickets for her 2024 tour. Swift, who is coming to Vancouver next December, caused quite a stir when she announced the city among tour locations last week. For tickets today, fans that won the ticket lottery will get a text and be placed in a virtual waiting room to purchase. Seasonal decorations can pose risks to wildlife. Our reporter Aaliyah Andres has more on this story and what people can do to keep animals safe this holiday season.
At this time of year, seasonal decorations start adorning yards and houses, but the types of materials placed in outdoor settings can be dangerous to wildlife. Wild animal welfare specialist Nadia Xenakis at the BCSPCA notes the risks animals can face by getting entangled in common outdoor decorations.
But seasonally, we absolutely see things like fake snow, fake spider webs at Halloween, Christmas lights that are hung quite low. For a bird, it can be quite life-threatening in some cases, particularly if someone doesn't realize that it can cause harm to kind of yank a bird out of webbing. Occasionally for deer, sometimes they'll get things stuck in their antlers, but they'll fall out over time. Other times they get fully entangled in whatever it might be, and they can't escape.
For a wildlife-safe yard, Xenakis suggests to steer clear of hanging decorations over bushes and in trees, and for lights to be hung tighter to houses. Aaliyah Andres, 1680, The Crow.
In the world of sports, we have a new rugby team set to launch here in Vancouver next year. The Vancouver Highlanders will have a full-time training base with training and rugby staff, and players will be paid. The two men behind the project, former UBC head coach Curry Hitchborn and local businessman Ralph McRae, are saying not to call it professional, though. They say the word casts the wrong idea, and they are looking to strip away all the structure that's been developed over the last 30 years. What exactly that looks like is still unknown, but next year will be an interesting one when the new look team makes their debut. Tonight in the NHL, the Los Angeles Knights take on the Vegas Golden Knights at 7 p.m. Ottawa Senators are taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs at 4 p.m. And over in the NBA, the Golden State Warriors are up against the Denver Nuggets at 7. In tennis, Canada is entering the Billie Jean Cup, the world of tennis, as Canada vs. Spain just wrapped up. Marina Stuk-Suik sprung a major surprise this morning, securing a win against Spain, propelling Canada into an early lead. Canada is looking to record their first win against Spain since 1972. Canada's Carrie Anerson defeated South Korea's Sang-Young Ha 7-1 on Wednesday morning at the Grand Slam of Curling's Kyoto National. Anderson and her team needed only 5 wins to complete the victory. 3 more draws are scheduled for later in the day. Play continues through Sunday. The first sign of discontent over Craig Counsell leaving the Milwaukee Brewers to manage the Chicago Cubs appeared in his Milwaukee suburb hometown. The word "ass" was spray painted across Counsell's name on the sign outside the local ballpark. The Brewers are now trying to continue winning in Major League Baseball's smallest market without their manager who led them to their greatest run of sustained success. As for the weather today, we will continue to see some on and off again light showers. The high today will be 10 degrees with a low of 4 as we head into the evening. Rainy conditions are expected to persist throughout the week. The wind right now is around 15 kilometers per hour, but tomorrow may be a bit gustier with wind speeds predicted to reach up to 50 kilometers per hour. There is a Highway 3 update after a rock slide shut down parts of the highway near Karamias. Crews have partially reopened some portions as they continue to work on repairs. As of late afternoon yesterday, Karamias and Headley opened to single-lane traffic in each direction. Those were your 12 p.m. news headlines. I'm Jocelyn Chappelle. Thanks for tuning in to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Well, another Halloween season has come and gone. As usual, it's time for spooky activities like carving pumpkins or trick-or-treating, traditions that have stayed relatively the same for over 100 years.
Costumes are another popular part of Halloween celebrations, but it's one of the few aspects of the holiday that have progressively changed over time, not only because of what might be trending that year, but also because costume cultural appropriation awareness has given us an understanding that some costumes need to be taken off the table completely. But sometimes the line between culture appropriation and culture appreciation can be fine and foggy. Hi, I'm Aaliyah Andres.
And I'm Caitlin No, and we're your hosts for the Culture and Costumes Navigating Boundaries podcast. And today we're diving into what makes or breaks a Halloween costume that portrays a different culture and how they've evolved over the decades. So let's start with how dressing as different cultures for Halloween began. The act of dressing in Halloween costumes in North America has been around for more than 100 years, and if people chose to dress up as a different culture, it was parts of traditions that had been stolen, stereotyped, or inaccurately represented.
Vivian Gosselin, who is the director of exhibitions and collections at the Museum of Vancouver, has seen many traditional costumes and belongings throughout her career, and says the Halloween costumes would always be made up of the same stereotypical depictions of a certain culture, because that's what society understood them to look like.
If you're copying or trying to represent a culture you don't know, you'll have to go with the lowest common denominator, right? Because very caricatured. It can't be subtle because people won't know, because we don't know those cultures. It's always going to be the same kind of reductive elements because people are like, oh yeah, they're trying to do the, the Sarah, princess, because we don't have a lot of references. When we start looking at the sourcing, how it came in to live in museum collections, we know that some pieces have been stolen. It was really about historically marginalized communities that, on top of that, didn't even have the agency of talking about their own stories.
But as time went on and costumes labeled Native American, Gypsy, or Egyptian that were formerly popular in shops started to be taken down, it became clear that the aim wasn't to represent traditional culture, but to use its stereotypes for profit.
Part of the discussion was it's not okay in gift shops, for example, to sell, Pocahontas costumes. We just told you who we are. This is like Disney that's trying to, create more merch and sending stuff without context. The idea that you can extract natural resources and cultural resource from all over the world, it's okay as long as you can sell it. And I think the costume is kind of in stores like that for sale. It's just one of those manifestations.
Aaliyah and I went to the streets of downtown Vancouver to see if we could find any costumes portraying other cultures. While most costumes we saw were popular movie characters, pop culture references, ghouls, or comedy related, we did find a few people dressed up in attire from cultures they didn't know a lot about.
It's Halloween night on Granville and Smythe Street in Vancouver, where there are crowds of people in costumes.
We are wearing a Sheikh's costume. It's called Twab. It's called Twab.
Do you know what culture it's from?
It's from Arab religion, I guess.
Okay. Is that your guys' culture?
No.
No? Okay.
No, we're just we respect all religions and we're just part of the festival.
So why did you pick this costume?
It was a last-minute one. On Saturday, I was a witch, and then it was a costume that I was supposed to wear today, but I didn't have my hat.
What is your makeup of? What are you supposed to be?
It's sugar flower.
Sugar flower.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's from
Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
the Dia de los Muertos, I believe.
Yeah. Do you know much about it, or was it kind of just
Sorry. Yeah. It's more random. Yeah, I took out, but I don't know. Yeah.
As we just heard, one person we talked to in downtown was wearing a costume of what she called a sugar flower. This is part of Mexican culture that is derived from the Day of the Dead celebration. we asked Lily Carvalho, the executive director of the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center, about if it's ever appropriate to dress up as another culture as a Halloween costume.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think that, of course, everything is in the intention you put on it, but because you're out there in your costume, people will know if you're celebrating or mocking. And so that's why we should be careful. Your intention won't be clear when you choose your costume. So you really should, think twice.
So from what Lily just mentioned about thinking twice about a certain costume, that seems to be sticking with people. Owner Maureen Q from Disguise the Limit Costume Rentals in Victoria says the interest in costumes from different cultures have considerably gone down in popularity.
Absolutely renting less or none. People are unsure or they're just not comfortable not knowing if it's appropriate or not. So they just don't. So wouldn't be doing, any tiger lilies. Aladdin still, there's certain costumes that people don't associate necessarily with a culture. They associate with a childhood love of a character. So yeah, I think it's great that the conversations are happening, but definitely people are staying away from any ones that have a strong cultural reference that is not their own.
I think it was something probably every little kid has done at some point growing up, where they'll want to dress up as a character like Disney's Jasmine or another character from a beloved movie or person from history. But Aaliyah and I were having this discussion when researching for this project about if we should be giving a pass to children when it comes to character costumes from different cultures. This is what Vivian and Lily had to say.
I think it's okay not to have those costumes as a choice. You can be a plumber, like a princess, but it doesn't have to be that specific person from that specific place. If Pocahontas is not okay, I think it's not okay without understanding more context. I know it sounds maybe a little, it may seem a bit harsh in some ways, but I think there are different ways of exposing kids to different cultures. I think at one point it will go. I'm pretty sure people will start looking into it and say, there's so many other costume ideas. Like, people lack imagination. There's just so much stuff we can do, right? That's not about representing people we don't know.
Like, I cringe when I think that I dress as an indigenous person when I was a little kid back in Brazil, which was considered totally fine. And now there is a new better developed thought around that you shouldn't do that.
So, what conclusions have we come to after talking to different experts and researching this topic? Can we definitively say what kinds of cultural costumes are okay and the ones that are not?
It seems to be a couple of things in combination, but I think Lily does a really great job at summing it up with this quote.
You should do your own homework, and so try to learn more about other cultures. Be on the safe side of things and dress like a couple of friends of mine dress as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That won't have any cultural problem. And so if you can be creative in a way that you're not going to be risking offending someone, why not?
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us for Culture and Costumes Navigating Boundaries. My name is Caitlin No.
And I'm Aaliyah Andres. Look out for more episodes created by our students at BCIT Journalism and 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Welcome. This is your 12:30 news on 1680 The Crow, and I'm Melanie Levesque. The intersection of Howe and West Hastings Street has been closed this morning after a serious collision involving a pedestrian. Currently, evidence markers can be seen on the road. No further information has been released by authorities. Today is Aboriginal Veterans Day, a date set in the honor of Indigenous people who have contributed to the efforts of the Canadian military. While the exact number of Indigenous veterans in Canada is not known to the government, in World War II alone, over 4,000 Indigenous people served in the Canadian military. The 23-year-old man who killed the two UBC students in 2021 while driving intoxicated has been sentenced to 3 years in prison and a 5-year driving ban. Provincial Court Judge Glenn Lee noted in court that Tim Gardner will still be young when he completes his sentence, so he will have plenty of opportunity to spread the message about the dangers of drinking and driving. New updates on a bus crash in southeast Saskatchewan. Fire Chief Dwayne Stone has now revealed that 13 people were in the bus crash at the time of the rollover this morning. He also says he doesn't believe any of the victims suffered life-threatening injuries. The coach bus had Tennessee license plates, so it is possible that those injured in the crash were from outside of the province. The RCMP did not provide any further updates on their condition. Federal politicians are raising concerns over anti-Semitism in Canada after a Montreal synagogue and a local Jewish organization were hit with firebombs this week. Liberal MP Anthony Housefather told reporters this morning that he has never witnessed the Jewish community so afraid.
There is something wrong in this country where a war in the Middle East has spread into Canada and making Jewish Canadians feel this unsafe. And it's not an uncommon feeling. This is the majority feeling right now. Everyone will tell you that.
Housefather also says he is calling on police to take action towards hate speech and related crimes. 75 people connected with Canada were able to leave Gaza yesterday through the southern Rafah crossing with Egypt, the only way out for foreign nationals. Rana Niswari managed to escape with her 2 children. She is currently in a hotel in Cairo. She said she is grateful to be safe, but is still concerned.
I'm glad I'm here and I'm very grateful I'm here, but my family is still there. They're stuck in a very bad place. They are in the church, the most secure place they think of. It's a very heartbreaking feeling because they didn't do anything to anybody, so their situation is very dangerous. They're very dangerous.
Defense Minister Bill Blair says he has instructed his team to make changes to the Liberals' defense policy update to be more transparent about the needs of the Canadian Armed Forces.
We will bring clarity that industry needs, but that CAF also needs, to this as quickly as possible. It's a lively conversation. I met with the Prime Minister's office on this earlier this week, and we're meeting with finance on it as well. There's a path forward, and I hope to be able to provide that clarity in the next few months.
He says that the defense plan was created before increased military activity in Ukraine and China, and therefore it must be updated. Seasonal decorations can create danger for wildlife this holiday season. Our reporter Elia Andres has more.
At this time of year, seasonal decorations start adorning yards and houses, but the types of materials placed in outdoor settings can be dangerous to wildlife. Wild animal welfare specialist Nadia Xenakis at the BCSPCA notes the risks animals can face by getting entangled in common outdoor decorations.
But seasonally, we absolutely see things like fake snow, fake spider webs at Halloween, Christmas lights that are hung quite low. For a bird, it can be quite life-threatening in some cases, particularly if someone doesn't realize that it can cause harm to kind of yank a bird out of webbing. Occasionally for deer, sometimes they'll get things stuck in their antlers, but they'll fall out over time. Other times they get fully entangled in whatever it might be, and they can't escape.
For a wildlife-safe yard, Xenakis suggests to steer clear of hanging decorations over bushes and in trees, and for lights to be hung tighter to houses. Aaliyah Andres, 1680 The Crow.
Now for weather, right now it's 8 degrees Celsius with light rain in Vancouver. For this week, similar rainy conditions are expected throughout with a high of 10 degrees and a low of 4 degrees. Thanks for listening. I'm Melanie Levesque, and this has been your news on 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Microlink, connecting you with your BCIT community. Hello everybody, my name is Tatiana Yakovleva and welcome to the first episode of Microlink for the fall term. I'm excited to be back. This episode has a lot in store for us, But first, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which BCIT's main campuses are located is the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the shared traditional territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations. To start us off, I sat down with Celine Loriot, the president of the Student Association, to talk about the new executive board, what their visions are, and what's next for us. Celine, why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Celine. I am the president of the BCIT SA and a nursing student at BCIT.
That's awesome. And with so many BCIT students, it's never just being a student. Everyone does so much, right?
Of course. I feel like there's a bit of something for everyone at BCIT.
Right. So let's start with a few students. Can you tell us something about the 2023-2024 executive team? What's the vibe? What's the energy? What are you guys bringing to the table?
So I feel so fortunate to be working with such an enthusiastic team. So please don't mind if I rave about some of them. Charlene, the chair of health sciences, is a fellow classmate and nursing student like me. She's an avid runner and hiker. Also, she is pursuing her neonatal specialty. Shelby, the VP Equity and Sustainability, is an accounting student and has an appreciation for Shrek. Feel like a lot of us do.
That's my girl.
And her cat named Kevin. Simran, the chair of Business and Media, is an international student who has a bachelor's in French from India. Also, she keeps students safe as a security guard at BCIT. Abdul is studying architecture and building technology. He likes sports and cars, but only the fast ones. Justin is the chair of computing and academic studies. He is in the computer systems technology program and the voice of Raisin Crane in the Strawberry Shortcake series and volunteers at RAPS Cat Sanctuary in Richmond once a week. Daniel, the chair of specialized transport, is studying aircraft maintenance engineering. He is also serving Canada in the armed forces.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very dedicated. Lastly, Jimmy, the VP External, is an electrical engineer student and a Lego connoisseur. I could go on about Mia, Rashank, Josh, and Matthew. And if I did, we'd probably be here for a couple hours.
That's fair. We did hear from Mia and Vershank and a lot of the returning execs already. If you haven't checked out the previous interviews, I strongly recommend to doing so. Well, Celine, enough about your team. I want to hear about you. What do you bring to the executive team as the president?
As I mentioned, I am a nursing student in my final year, so I've really honed how to stay calm under pressure and how to think critically. Before this role, I served as the BCIT SA Chair of Health Sciences, and based on that, I know how it feels to be new at the SA. Therefore, I really try my best to set up my executives for success by regularly checking in, acting as a soundboard for new ideas, and encouraging self-care in work-life balance. I firmly believe that the president should share power, and leadership is best when it's collaborative. My priority is that students should feel seen, heard, and valued. It's not about being president that motivates me, it is serving the SA mandate of enhancing student life.
Can you briefly touch on what enhancing student life means to you?
So, enhancing student life is really listening to the students and delivering on what their current needs are. One of these mission projects that I'm working on is supporting students' mental health and awareness at BCIT. I plan on continuing with my Campus Convos events, which are mental health workshops with guest speakers shared over a meal at small round tables. This was actually a shared initiative with Josh Liu, the VP Student Experience that we started last year. So I'm definitely excited to continue with this initiative. Also, I want to boost student resilience and foster that sense of community by hosting more social events. I want to make BCIT more fun.
I personally root for paint night, so maybe you can make it happen one day.
For sure.
Okay, we got one vote in. Hopefully it'll get through. As a nursing student, what is the value of mental health? I'm sure you know that more than I do. So can you please briefly touch on that and the magnitude that it carries?
So I started my nursing studies in the peak of COVID.
Right.
And that was the strangest time of my life, right? Because instead of practicing in the community, we were practicing with simulation mannequins, right? So I think for me, mental health is so important because the pandemic made us more disconnected, right? And I think being a nursing student puts me in a unique position to really be in tune with what's going on around me in my environment and have a sense of what's going on for people and how I can really use my compassion to help others. Yeah, I think that's why mental health awareness, especially for students at BCIT, is so important to me.
Is that the main reason you got into nursing?
Yes, because I have had the privilege of growing up with lots of inspirational nurses, and I think just seeing the impact they had on their communities and, sure, no one is ever going to remember their names all the time, but people remember how they made them feel. And I think that is really what inspired me to get into nursing, because I want to have that kind of impact on someone. Make them know that I didn't give up, that, no matter what, I'm there for them.
I love the quote that it's more about how nurses make people feel, because in medical or mental health aspects, it's so vulnerable.
Yes.
And having a right attitude just makes the difference so much. But we'll stray away from that topic and we'll come back to the initiatives. Are there any other initiatives that your colleagues have been fostering that you're very excited about?
So I'm excited to work with Shelby Woida, the VP of Equity and Sustainability, to find ways to indigenize the organization. And we are thinking of doing this through consulting with elders on best practices so we can move more in the direction of promoting reconciliation that is meaningful to us. We hope to achieve this through education and events in collaboration with community partners at BCIT. Mia Boo, the VP of Finance and Administration, plans on continuing her free tax clinic for students. It was very popular and successful last year. I think this is an excellent initiative as tax time can be stressful for students, and it allows student volunteers to practice their tax skills. Vershank Prabhu, the chair of Energy, is leading the SETREP committee, which is focused on improving the SETREP program for everyone. And actually, many executives are interested in finding ways to just make it that better experience. And lastly, Justin Saint, the chair of Computing and Academic Studies, plans to continue hosting the annual QDS Hackathon, where teams work together to create solutions to an industry problem. And the winners get prizes and chances to connect with the judges who are potential employers.
Ooh,
Lots of fun stuff happening.
So you mentioned the tax clinic, correct? And I personally can vouch that I volunteered for it last year. Honestly, an amazing experience for those who go there and volunteer there as well. But speaking of taxes and the economy, as you know, that the current economy is not very favorable with the interest rates rising, and it has affected everyone. Currently, there was a referendum last year regarding finances. So how does BCIT Student Association operate in a deficit? And how do you choose your priorities when it comes to limited funds? Because everything has a limited fund. We cannot...
Of course.
Unfortunately, we would love to have unlimited funds, but that's not realistic. So how do you set your priorities in this situation?
It's true that we are in a deficit, and we have chosen not to cut back services to students. Hosting successful events requires thoughtful planning and buy-in from the team. Also, we have options to move funds around to support initiatives. For example, September is jam-packed with student-facing events that we started planning many months in advance. The execs will be present at the events, so please stop by and hang out with us. It'll be great.
Awesome. Well, can you give us a sneak peek of one of those events?
Oh, one of them, we plan on having a pub party where we'll have a DJ and we'll have meal specials. And yeah, I'm really excited just thinking about it.
And besides the social events and gatherings, what do you think that the students at BCIT need the most in this current time?
It isn't easy being a student. Affordability is huge, and we know students need to feel supported during their academic journey, and there are numerous negative impacts from the rising cost of parking, housing, food, education, and textbooks. The list goes on. I see it every day with my classmates, many of whom have to work longer hours or take additional jobs just to make ends meet.
Right.
Additionally, challenges continue to be prevalent, and no student should have to face this alone without adequate support. The SA is here to help, and will keep pushing BCIT and the government to step up even more.
And what does stepping up mean for you in this case?
So stepping up means really addressing these needs and being there for students. We opened a food pantry and we secured student support as a BCIT SA community for increased investments in this program over the coming year. Most importantly, we are constantly advocating to BCIT and the government around parking affordability, student aid, better regulation of international tuition, and increased mental health support.
And as far as I understand, that's the responsibility of VP External to lobby for those things.
Correct.
I know that's not your role, but can you briefly give us a sentence or two to summarize what your colleague does?
So Jimmy, the VP External, he goes on lobby trips with the government relations strategist Stuart. And in those trips, they are purposeful trips where they advocate for students in meetings with government officials.
I'm sure it's very tiring to do so, but I appreciate Jimmy doing that on our behalf. We'll get to the nitty-gritty part. I've heard some rumors that some students feel there is a disconnect between the student association and the students themselves. Do you think that is the case?
We can always do better. And this is top of mind during my presidency. Students connect with us for appointments with advocacy specialists for support with wellness and navigating BCIT educational policies. Also, students enjoy connecting with career specialists as they help give them that extra boost that they need in their careers and connect them with employers at career fairs. We form a council with student representatives across all schools and campuses. Therefore, I strive to find ways to motivate students to join, especially where students can directly have their say and shape the direction of the SA. BCIT attends student consultations with us throughout the year, so this is a great way to let them know what challenges and suggestions you have.
And for want students to get involved and to really voice their opinions, how can they do that? I believe, as far as I know, anyone can sit on the council meetings. Is that correct?
That is correct. Everyone is welcome. We have food. And yeah, it's one of the best ways to stay in the know in what's happening in the student community.
SA itself, there was a 5-year plan called Raising the Bar. What does that mean to you specifically, Celine?
Raising the bar means putting in the work to match words to action. For instance, we want to engage with more students by having more student-facing events throughout the year. Doing so will increase our presence at BCIT and student engagement at times such as the AGM and elections. Our new strategic plan will require everyone to work together in January to determine how we move forward into the future to enhance student life.
And what do you hope will be accomplished by 2024 with this plan?
I hope that students will be able to see our presence and feel that we are here to support them.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the BCIT students listening today?
At the BCIT SA, you choose how you want to be involved. You can join one of our 40-plus clubs, attend Kickstart and Welcome Back events, sign up as a set rep or counselor, or go to our website to learn about all the great services we offer. Please reach out to us if you have questions or concerns and send us your ideas. We are an inclusive and welcoming organization, pet-friendly too.
That is true. I've seen so many cute doggies running around. But I personally lobby for more cats. I'm a cat person. We need more cats.
Yes.
unfortunately, you can't tell them where to go. So that's probably the only hiccup. But to end things off on a maybe slightly lighter note, do you have any advice for upcoming students? A lot of people are starting in September. What do you think a new student at BCIT should know?
At BCIT, there are so many people that would like to help you and so many resources here. And no one is ever going to turn you away if you say you're not okay. And yeah, we are a supportive community and we really want to see our students thrive.
I think it takes effort to reach out, which is why there might be a sort of barrier when it comes to it. But I can say from personal experience, it is worth it. If there is anything, an issue going on, and even if it's not really related to student life, you can always find resources. I personally encourage every listener to really reach out to people. We're only an email away, really, so.
Yeah.
And you can book appointments with Celine and other executives as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So each executive holds their office hours, and one way to find out when we're available is to go on our website and click the link to book an appointment with us. Or even if you just see us in the hallway, talk to us. We're happy to chat.
So now you know how Celine sounds like. So if you hear her voice, you know who she is. That's what it's like, hi, Celine. But thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that the September will be off to a great start. It sounds like a lot of is cooking up, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, I want to make BCIT fun again.
To continue discussing changes at the Student Association, I sat down with Roland Gagel, the Director of Finance and Interim Executive Director for the SA. He and I discussed what his two current roles entail, how they play into one another, what their differences are, and what they do to make the student life better. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Roland. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Roland Gagel, and I am the Director of Finance and the Interim Executive Director for the Student Association of BCIT.
So, Director of Finance is your main role, correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell me more about your main role?
I've been with the Student Association since 2003, so 20 years now, and my role as the Director of Finance is to oversee the finance and accounting and administration of the Student Association.
And in terms of being Interim Executive Director, how does that look like for you?
I get a lot more emails on a daily basis now. So in terms of the role of the Executive Director, it's overseeing the operations of all of the staff and acting as a liaison, as a liaison to the board and council. So assisting and supporting them and translating their objectives down to the staff and trying to achieve the goals that they want to have.
And in that position, do you integrate with all of the levels of the Student Association, or is it more of a relay between the board and the employees of the Student Association?
There's obviously a team of people. I don't talk to everybody individually. In totality, the Student Association has about 100 staff, so I don't talk to everyone, and many of the staff are involved with serving the students at our retail stores and things.
Right.
But so I mean, I don't manage all the staff directly. There's a team of directors that I directly liaison with or chat with and inform them or inform them of the board's wishes and just manage the operations from that point.
And how long have you been in this interim role?
Since June.
Okay. And combining this and your main role of Director of Finance, what does your day in your life look like?
It's answering a lot more emails than I used to be doing, and trying to fit in the Director of Finance duties, some of which I've downloaded a little bit to the controller of the Student Association. Everyone's pitching in as best they can to help me out. It's an awful lot, and I certainly don't mind doing it for the benefit of the Student Association. So I certainly can't do it by myself. All of the staff are helping me out as best they can.
And I did hear Little Bird say that you do bike to work.
Do bike to work most days.
Most days. That's a nice start to your routine. Is there anything else that you like in your daily routine to break up the busyness?
Well, I try to make sure I have lunch.
That's always good.
That's always good. Other than that, no, it's bike to work to sort of get some fresh air and get going, and then it's doing the work and trying to answer emails, try to reach out to staff, talk to staff directly. I try not to sit at my desk too much. I do like to chat with people because I find it's a more informative way to bring the team together and sort of move things forward. So yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like the students to know about you and the Student Association?
I've been with the Student Association for 20 years, as I said. I've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the Student Association since I started. It is a completely different organization since when I started in 2003, but the mission has always stayed the same. All of the staff are dedicated to tagline. It's not just a tagline, it's the mission of the Student Association, which is enhancing student life. I'm always striving to make the Student Association better, but always better in the sense of trying to make things better for students, because the students are the members of the Student Association.
And how does that betterment look like in the next 5 years for you?
Well, there's a number of projects on the table in the short term in improving the food pantry, food security program. We've recently hired a food security coordinator as per the referendum that was passed last spring by the students. So enhancing that program, part of the objectives of that program is to bring it to the other campuses where possible. How that is actually going to look is still to be determined, but we're working on that because we fully understand the need of food security exists at all campuses. We're still working on with BCIT to determine where additional space for the Student Association could be on campus. That is part of the mandate of the Student Association. And so that's still in the works. It's taking a little longer than we anticipated just because of the complexity of the negotiations with BCIT and the need to find the space and then to pay for it. We are collecting a new building fee to facilitate the building of a new space or acquiring a new space, however that may be, and there's just a lot. It's a complex thing, so we're still working on that. And then just in general, just trying to strive that all of our services are a little bit better every year, and make the delivery of services to students more efficient, more effective, and of more value to students.
And you talked about the consequences of the referendum. Is there any other ripple effect that students may not notice in their daily life?
With respect to the food security program, we brought that forward. It was brought forward by council to the students, and they voted in a positive manner to increase the fee as it relates specifically to the food security program, and now we're just rolling that out. the ripple effect there is just to be of benefit to students, because the students found that to be of value. I can't really think of any other ripple effects. It's just all in the package or mandate to enhance student life.
And I talked to Celine about involving more student events. Is that something you're currently working on, or is it something that you don't oversee as much?
I am certainly working on it, not directly, but the council and the board has communicated that wish to me to have more actual student life on campus in terms of events, and I've communicated that to the other staff, and we are working on that. So, for instance, we did have the party at the pub on September 22nd, which was quite successful, and we've heard from students that they enjoyed that very much, and that seemed to go well. And we're in the process of planning another party for Halloween, and probably another kind of a party at the end of November. And we intend to continue planning more events, both bigger events and smaller events, to provide more life on campus.
What was some of the feedback that you received from the students during the Habitat Pub party?
Generally positive. They all seem to have a good time. There was some pickup on the Uber rides that we provided to students for the night of the party. We intend to do that again. With respect to the Halloween party, it was generally well received, and everything went reasonably smoothly. There weren't really any major hiccups as far as I'm aware. So it was generally positive. We're just trying to, for the Halloween party, to expand it a little bit and make it an even bigger event. I'm not going to share any details because that's going to come out in the next week or two, the details as it relates to that. But we're just trying to make the next party bigger and better, more fun.
Will you dress up?
Will I dress up? I hadn't thought about that yet.
That's fair enough. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I hope those 2 interviews were very insightful for you folks, because they were for me, and I work for the Student Association. Oh, but speaking of, you can check out more Student Association content, events, and things that are happening in the area on the Instagram at BCITSA. Same with Link. Our Instagram is at LinkBCIT. Also, check out our TikTok, run by yours truly. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I will see you in the next one.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-Kane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.